Hello there, and welcome. Well, it's Friday, so I need to tell you an anomaly. And I've lost kind of track of what stories I've told, but I don't believe I've told this anomaly because it's been a long time since I've thought about it. For years, 14 years, I taught at a place called Goddard High School in Roswell, New Mexico. And what some people don't know is that about half the high school is underground, 16 feet underground. And I taught in room 13 in this underground portion of the school. And the designers of the plant were smart about some things. One of the things that they were really smart about was the hallways down in that underground part, and the rooms are generous, wide, high. That way, when you're in it, you don't think so much about the fact that you're underground. It feels bigger, and so you feel less claustrophobic even though you're underground. Well, during the time that I taught there, one year, the air handlers at the school were not functioning properly. And one of the results was something that none of us anticipated. So the way the building was designed, there were these big air handlers that blew air both in and out of the building in order to regulate the temperature. That was the main initial purpose of these big air handlers. But when they stopped functioning properly and started failing, the cooling was not as good. But even more important was fresh air was not being cycled through the building. And what we discovered, all of us that both attended and taught at the school, we discovered that we could start the school day at regular time and go through our classes for a while, but around 1 in the afternoon, everybody, and I mean every human being in those buildings, developed a huge and painful headache. And eventually we discovered that this headache that was hurting us all was caused by oxygen debt. The oxygen in the building was not being exchanged, so we were actually going through this kind of oxygen starvation as the day progressed. And so in the afternoons they would let us out. And finally they had to cancel school so that they could get the air handlers working perfectly properly so that we all did not enter this state of oxygen debt, or essentially very, very, very slow suffocation. And I gotta tell you, that experience, those headaches and that experience was pretty instructive to me, because it taught me something about us human beings that it's important to recall every once in a while, and that is, we don't really carefully consider all the possibilities of what may be going wrong. We only consider one or two things, and that's certainly what was happening with that building. Originally, the building was supposed to be a community bomb shelter. It was built during the time of the worst parts of the Cold War. And so the feeling that there would be a nuclear holocaust and that we would need to shelter in these underground bunkers was the misery of that time. We all were actually very worried about it. There was this movie that came out, a television movie called The Day After. I think that was the title of it, that really affected a lot of people during that time, where it showed, well, this is what would happen if, for those people who survived the initial nuclear holocaust, this is what would happen to them. And it was, oh, bleak, oh, terrible. And I suspect that that time period after World War II, when people were wrestling with this issue of nuclear war, that was an instructive time to humanity. And what we came to realize as humans was that we are not cautious or careful enough about unforeseen possibilities. And I think we're kind of going through that right now. Every once in a while, human beings decide, well, this way of doing things isn't working, so we're gonna throw this out and start anew with something else. But they don't think about, well, wait a minute. When I say this isn't working, what part isn't working? What eventually is going to be the result of me trying to tear this down and put something else in its place? And the reason I want to discuss this just a little bit is this. The American democracy was an experiment at its founding, and we're now in the 250th year of its existence. For human endeavor, 250 years isn't really much time at all. It's actually a pretty short time in human history and absolutely microscopic time in Earth history. So we have this experiment. It's had some very good effects, but right now it's really in crisis. And that crisis is, I think, mainly the result of people thinking, oh, democracy doesn't work, so we're going to try something slightly different. It's not democracy that's not working. That's not the issue. The issue has to do with the way we relate to each other and the way we relate to our false gods, which the main one is money. We need to very carefully think about the results of allowing money to be our main focus. Money is a useful tool for human beings, but money is not valuable. People, the earth, air, water, food, shelter, clothing, artwork, music, these are all valuable. But money, in and of itself, is not valuable. It's a tool. And the more we treat it as an end rather than a use, the more things will not work, regardless of the political or religious system we're under. That false god of money interferes with the successful functioning of any community. We have to constantly remind ourselves, money is a tool, not an end. An end is something like land, or water, or air. Meaning, these are things that we need and that we cannot create. We can create money. We've done it all along. Ever since the concept of money has existed, it's been created by human beings. So, we need to keep that in mind. Any system, any political system that puts money over the real things of life, food, water, shelter, humans, art, music, anything that raises money over those, any system, it's not going to last. It's going to fail, because this money is just a tool. It's just an invented thing to make life easier in a society. But it's the things, the shelter, the food, the friends, the family, that really make value. That's where real value resides. And we need to remind ourselves of that, because no matter what governmental system you have, if you don't value real things over not real things, you're doomed. Oh, that's kind of dark. Sorry about that. I ended on a dark note here, but of course I began with suffocation, so it was bound to be a rough episode. I hope you have a deeply, freely breathing rest of the day, and I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.